Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, a forum for business owners and senior executives to share the experiences about the elements that drive their success. Your host is Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media.co, an Inc. 500 company delivering the power of hyperlocal advertising. Robert writes for Forbes, Inc., and ad trade publications. Our goal is to bring you the stories about successes and failures of people who are making big things happen in marketing, entrepreneurship, and management.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guest is Troy Knight, CEO, entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, founder and CEO of Building 25. Troy, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got to start and found Building 25. And do you call it Building 25 or is it something else?
I do. It's Building 25. We, did the abbreviation of it instead of spelling it all the way out, but it was just a little faster to type on, when you're doing it in the emails and web addresses. So
Sounds good.
To get a little, I'll kind of give a little basis of how everything, kind of came together, talk a little bit about background and so forth. Funny enough story is that, graduating with degrees in architecture, civil engineering, and mechanical engineering, and had an opportunity to work with author Tom Clancy and the first game title that he wanted to work on, which was SSN. SSN was the first submarine warfare game, and the game was based off of The Hunt for October, where Sean Connery played on. Ultimately, as that grew and the game sold, that's when Red Storm Entertainment was pretty much spawned out and was and started. So I had an opportunity to work with Tom Clancy over the first game title, and then the parent company that had spun out Red Storm Entertainment was Virtus. Virtus was a virtual reality computer company back in the 90s. They had started some of the first technologies of VR based on the Macintosh. And so I had an opportunity to travel the world, talk about virtual reality, and be mainly a application engineer. Funny enough, as I graduated school and I tell my parents that I'm going to work at a game company, they're right away thinking they probably just wasted a bunch of money on 3 degrees. But the good thing is, after working with Tom Clancy, and you can't turn down an opportunity like that, I ended up just, when I went to the parent company, I was able then to talk about virtual reality and visualizations, but back into the architecture and engineering markets, because they're all about visual, describing what their end products are going to look like. So over the years, I was working with high-end, cutting-edge technologies, leveraging visualizations to help bridge that gap of communications, whether it was for real estates, commercial buildings, or even maybe a movie set design, for James Cameron for The Abyss. We were able to create these environments and experiences to visualize something before, you might clear the first tree off the lot to create a stadium. So as that started to trend and technologies and hardware caught up with the technologies and software we created, I spun out a company with one other individual there with Virtus, and we took that core technology, which was really helped start the genre of all these first-person type games that we see out there that you can explore spaces. We spun that out and used it in the business application to do real estate walkthroughs. And as that started to grow, I ended up having the opportunity, as they spun out into the medical market, I ended up going out into more the corporate market around, taking the same technology to then create these experiences for, PowerWare, Eaton, UPS backup systems, Caterpillar, a multitude of different real estate companies. So I was just really attached to that visualization market. As I grew through that, started the design company. We got acquired by a global learning production company and ran the global learning, but leveraging kind of this higher fidelity content for training and development. And as that kind of grew to a point, I had an opportunity to work with a consulting and recruiting firm. And they really understand that the industry that I was in is very specialized. And then they asked me to build a business plan for the company, which was a national company. Vaco was the name of it. They had about 35 companies nationwide. And the business plan was to build production and services work around the industries of design, multimedia, gaming, and e-learning. And so I built that practice, which was based in Raleigh. And as that started to grow, we knew we were more and more not necessarily in the business focus of what the plans were for Vaco as a whole. So we spun out our company, which now is Building 25, in 2015. And so when you look at who we are, we play right in the middle of that space, intersection of design, learning, and gaming. We're a design and development company, but we create custom digital solutions for our clients. The interesting thing as we go and as you build a company, you always have to have a differentiation. I mean, here in Raleigh, there's 200 software companies that are, to the left side of us, and there's about 100 user experience companies to the right of us. So how are we different within the marketplace? And taking that background I just talked about around gaming, it's around engagement, and companies that reach out to us are all trying to get a better experience or better engagement with their users. So what we do, we understand their business challenges, and then what we do is we leverage the methodologies around gaming psychology and behavior heuristics that create better engagement. So it's taking those methods and how we used to build the games or how we used to build the virtual environments, and it's just a process of design. And we leverage that right into the business applications or enterprise platforms that we're creating for our clients. So, that's kind of a basis of who we are. We leverage that differentiation in the marketplace of taking our background around gaming psychology and behavior heuristics to create platforms that designed to delight, our clients' customers, and we wrap smart technology around it, and we make our clients our hero. That is who we are.
So what types of like, I'm looking at your clients like Fidelity, Raytheon, like what's an example of something that you build? Because like this seems like a combination of like really interesting creative work and applying it to something that has a specific business outcome in mind. So like for some of these companies, like what types of things are you building?
Yeah, so like presently right now, we are finishing up about a 2-year project with Fidelity Charitable around building a platform for them around donations. So when you look at it, they want to leverage a donor within, their client base that finds a charity. And this charity, there's like 1.8 million charities out there. So they wanted to create a creative platform that engaged the donor to find a charity that they liked or potentially that they liked within the area of location where they are, zip code, and allow them to make a donation very quickly, but also be able to re-engage the donor to come back again and give again, maybe later during the year. So, I mean, it's a massive platform that we built for them. And connecting into 1.8 million charities over the way. So that's just one experience, and it's trying to get ways where there's motivations, intrinsic, extrinsic motivations that you use within the experiences that you're there on platforms and on websites, and then how can you leverage that to do something potentially that they want to do, they just don't know they want to do it. So you're helping them kind of make those decisions along the way. So that's revolved a lot around Fidelity Charitable, and then we go on a potential different spectrum where we look at Raytheon, where they were doing trainings around air traffic control. And I mean, I know if anything, that's one very, very stressful job. So they wanted to induce a little bit of fun in their training, and so what we did is we created a game that allowed them to put themselves into an environment that made it familiar to them, but create a game that we did multiple levels. So, some of the pictures that you're seeing there on the site, phase 1 of the game would have 4 planes, and those planes are in essence the dots that are on the screen. You click on each one of them, You change speed, velocity, altitude, direction, and you stack them in a certain priority. Level 2, you double the amount of the planes. Level 3, and so forth, you keep doubling the planes. So over time, you have that stressful amount where you're getting in there trying to land the planes in priority and without anything crashing. So ultimately, you're tracking everything on the back end. Each user, as it goes through, how many times they play, what was the amount of time they played, how many planes did they land, how many planes didn't land, and allows to then induce that competition side that we see and you kind of might hear within gamification. So it's using more of the gaming, concepts around that instead of, building out a specific platform. So that was a piece of content that we created for them.
So you're what now? A 3-time founder or co-founder?
I am.
Times?
Well, I have co-founded about 5 companies now. Some of them are gonna be anywhere around, the design agency that I helped spin out. The first company that we ended up, spinning out of that virtual reality company, I was kind of a person within that, helping start that up. And then when you start to look at it, I wear also a hat presently of starting, co-founding an East Coast Game Conference. It's a conference that we do here within Raleigh, North Carolina. Everyone's heard of the game Fortnite, Gears of War, Unreal.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of bases that within our area here, there's a number of game development shops, but also with the educational institutions, you've got a lot of gaming curriculums that are going on because of the opportunities, and we all see how gaming is growing in general. And so gaming is a good hotbed around here. And so we built a conference around that. We have 2,000 people that show up, international conference, and it talks about the strategy of game, the narration of game. How are game companies designing these days? How are they developing? How are they designing their stories? But also we have another aspect of businesses and how are businesses leveraging gaming in a way to accelerate their business and what they're, or their products that they're creating right now. So it's just, my background, I love, starting things. There's absolutely a blank canvas. And from that, we just, build it from nothing into something. And this one now, Building 25, is by far the biggest that we've done because we're moving really fast. We made Inc. 330 this year. So that was a, huge accomplishment of this team that we have, which is amazing that we have on staff. So yeah, I like to kind of build things from the ground up.
So what do you think, is the critical factor for the success you've been having with Building 25? And I noticed you were on Inc. 500 or Inc. 5000 with Vaco on the Inc. 500. What do you think are some of the common trends here in how you're able to scale and why your businesses take off like the way they do?
Yeah. So when we spun out in 2015 December from Vaco, we then became Building 25 Inc. It was really starting from scratch and ground zero. Today we had zero marketing to date leading up to that. Not that necessarily that, we just weren't the core area of where Vaco was, but we were at functions with Vaco. They were great. They're really big around people that have an idea to be entrepreneurs themselves. So that was the one thing I really loved about them as a whole, their holistic idea of how building companies. And so they gave me the opportunity to do that. We built it. We didn't have the marketing up to date, but then when we got out of the gates in December 1, we really started to really move fast. As every up and down there always is, when we came out, you have this big umbrella before you spin out, and you can kind of travel anywhere you want to go because they're, over a $500 million company now, if not more. And it's easier to kind of do those travels. But when you go out to ground zero, you kind of had to slow down. You couldn't make the travels that potentially you had already planned. So that made it a little difficult. You don't pay yourself for a while, and you just kind of get the thing going. The good thing is when we came out of Vaco, we had established, Blue Cross Blue Shield, RBC Bank, Raytheon, Fidelity Investments, Fidelity Charitable. We had a number of those clients already under our belt. So we were able to leverage that in our conversations. And then it just takes time. It also takes a team that surrounds you, that believes in the vision, that, knowing that there's going to be some tough times as you get out, and, they all stuck through with it. And it's great to know that it's a family and we've grown it from there. So that's really, one of the main reasons, and how we kind of got started. And then as you get in there, you're wearing every single hat you possibly can. We moved offices. I'm painting the walls. I'm cleaning up, vacuuming the floors, bringing in food. You have to kind of be at the beck and call of the team to make sure they've got everything they have. And it's tiring, long hours, but you just have to keep believing every day you wake up from the bed, and the people around you support it. So you get some momentum that way. We got some really good wins. I invested a lot of money back into the business. I didn't pay myself, which, that's always tough at home as well too. But luckily I had an awesome wife that supported me every step of the way. And you kind of break through. Sometimes it's lucky, as well too. But the team was good and we produced some really good stuff. So as we got out of the gates, kind of get through the kind of the thick of things, I want to say we probably rang up about $250,000 of debt in the beginning. And I hate having debt. So the board then that I had surrounded and created was really great within just the experience that they have and the advice that they gave me as well. That was a huge, hit for me that we were able to kind of get all that stuff paid down. And I want to say as of the first part of 2019, all debt was paid off. We're debt free. And we've got, considerable amount of money in the bank. So the good thing is that it just takes time, and it just takes that willingness to get up every day and keep bouncing through it and have a great team behind you.
So in the relationships that you've built throughout your career, do they become an integral part of how you're growing Building 25 as well?
They are. The way I've explained it is that I do business the way that my father taught me business, is that it's all about loyalty, respect, and adding value back to your client. I feel like that has been lost this day. I feel there's too many companies out there trying to get a quick buck. They're not there to truly support the client. They're in, they're out. And before they know it, they end up picking every apple off the tree, and there's no more apples to pick, and they have to either move to a different town, a different region, because, no one wants to deal with them. I've seen it way too many times. People, you always say, don't blow up the bridge, but I literally have just seen people nuke bridges around here. They just, kill a relationship. So I build it on trust. I've got a lot of experience when I come in. The relationships I establish with each one of these clients, they become good friends. And sometimes you need those in difficult times, knowing, you're going to have their back. We had a number of times where I did work and didn't even charge for it, but I knew that it was helping for the greater cause. And, that was our risk. But the good thing is a good bet, because you had forged a really good relationship and friendship with the clients that I've dealt with. So, definitely, you're definitely right that the relationships we started, they have continually helped fuel what we did. We've done work for free for them in certain cases, but then it's come back around tenfold for doing some of the things.
So that's really interesting because a lot of the ways we've grown has been with our network and doing a lot of sort of ancillary or peripheral work that really isn't part of what we do day to day, but it's what needs to be done. We're looking for media spend. So we spent 6 to 12 months in some cases providing an element of strategy to help push the process along, and literally not charge anything in terms of a retainer or anything, because we just want the clients to run advertising with us because we can serve them that way. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting. I think the trends that business owners deploy, they seem to the tactics seem to fall into a specific set of buckets. Mm-hmm. Do you have any intention as you move into 2020? Do you have an intention of does anything change in your process? Are you, for us, we're aggressively going into value-driven content marketing, running advertising campaigns for ourselves, developing a predictable, scalable, and repeatable process for us to grow. Is that something you guys are looking at, or is that not part of your process yet?
Well, when you look at, and I mentioned before that, really to date, we had done zero marketing. And one of the reasons of, co-founding the East Coast Game Conference was to get my name out there, be on TV, be on NPR, be in the newspaper quotes, where it might be, and just to get my name out there and the brand to build. And so we were able to continue to leverage that, through, once Building 25 had started as a division, inside of ACO, and then as it kind of spun off on its own. So that helped get some momentum, and definitely within the local market helps our brand. Just, I would say a month ago, or almost 2 months ago, I had brought on a marketing director. So we, again, zero marketing until we had brought her in. And then just within a month ago, hired my CMO. And between the marketing director and the CMO, they're both extremely talented within the marketplace, and it's been amazing what they've been able to do really quickly and really shortly. So it's great to see this momentum because it's something we haven't had. So it might throw a little bit more hours on my plate if I've got to go around and speak at events or just doing extra stuff. But it's good to see. So that's helped, and that's going to continue to help as we build out our programs.
So that's interesting. So you're looking at a conference as a way to showcase your abilities and to get a larger media presence around you. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at probably starting another conference that's even more closely related to Building 25 and just the areas that we're in. They're hard to put on. They're not easy. And the good thing is I've been doing it for 15 years of putting on events and large scale events. So we start small. We've got some marketing behind it that's starting to build. So I would probably foresee Q3 next year we'll probably have an event for as Building 25 is one of the premier sponsors of it, and then we'll start kind of bringing our network around it. And so that helps us facilitate business. It allows us to kind of see as experts in the industry, even though I kind of feel like there's never an expert because no one's perfect, but it allows us to get our name out there, and how it allows us to grow our brand. And I think from that by itself is a marketing engine, and it grows. It works with the East Coast Game Conference, and I know it'll kind of work again.
That's fascinating. That's not something that I've considered. I mean, that's such a cool way of being a value-driven marketer. I love that.
And you don't even need much, really. I want to say the conference was originally started by one of the colleges around here, and they could only attract maybe 25 to 50 people. And it's just, in essence, trying to get the word out there. And so we had a number of us that had come in, gaming industry, and we were able to kind of grow it very quickly. But it was very business-minded people that were in that group to grow it. And it's almost like, the whole, if you build it, they will come. And that conference, obviously, there's a lot of marketing around the students. The students want to get out in front of the game companies. And then you get the educational institutions who want to be a part of it because they want to be next to the game companies. So before you know it, you got 2,000 plus people. People are coming in from China practically. So we're getting a large growth, of people coming to the conference. So you find your niche. You bring a bunch of people around the table. You put on a couple side events that happen, and then it just starts to grow. So it doesn't take much. You just have to work at it. So it's a good way to market your company.
So Troy, in the last few minutes, I'm a big foodie. I love eating good food. What is either in Raleigh or anywhere else in the country that you've been? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of really, really great food?
Oh, this one's going to be a funny one. So, there are definitely, I eat everything. There's really nothing I don't like, but, when I was in Vegas, the Paris, it's probably bad. I don't even know La Paris or whatever it is. Inside of the Eiffel Tower, they've got that restaurant in the middle there. And I had, looking down a menu about 5 years ago, I saw my 3 favorite things on one dish, which you would think you would never see. And it was a filet mignon, foie gras, and truffle oil, all in one thing. And that was just the best thing ever. But that's one dish. But when I look at restaurants, the great thing, around here in Raleigh, there's so many great restaurants now. I mean, I was born and raised in this area, which is Cary, which is right next to Raleigh, and there was nothing. You could go downtown, and it was just Hillsborough Street where NC State was, and that was it. And you couldn't go downtown and you couldn't shop. Well, the whole entire downtown has transformed. I worked on the Contemporary Art Museum board downtown. I helped launch that museum, and that just kind of established culture. So then around culture came good food, followed with it. So, one of the other things you talked about was marketing. And for me was sitting on about 6 to 8 boards at one time, which is very time intensive, but that also gets your brand out there. So I love food, and Raleigh's finally growing, and Ashley Christensen, which owns a number of the restaurants that are here in Raleigh, James Bearden Award. Food is fantastic around there. So I'm just glad we got a good food scene. And Durham's right down the street from Raleigh, so there's a lot of great food there as well too, especially in Chapel Hill too. So a lot of great food around here.
Amazing. Troy, how can people find you? Websites, emails, anything else? Tell us about the gaming conference. Like, how do people find the URLs for that?
Yeah, so for Building 25 is BLDG-25.com, and that's our business website. The East Coast Game Conference is ECGCONF.com, and they'll be able to find that. We're April 7th and 8th, I think, and it's downtown Raleigh in the convention center. We're getting ready. We should be releasing our keynote here in the next couple weeks, and then that starts to go. My email address is knight@bldg-25.com.
Very cool. Thanks, Troy. This was fantastic. Appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you. Take care.